All right. We're good?
We're good, yes. So good
Hey,
morning.
good morning.
Um, so I want to introduce Dr. Laura Schlater and thank everyone for watching this video to learn more about how to work with editors,
Yeah.
because that's something that a lot of dissertation writers have no idea how to do, and they
Yeah.
and have lots of questions about it. So I'd love to start by just asking you to tell me a little bit about your story.
About my story. Um,
Your story
so
and how you came to be doing this work and anything else about you.
my story is super crazy. So I started out, I'm a writer and editor for a really long time. So I
Yeah.
went to college, undergraduate, and I majored in writing and psychology.
Yeah.
And then I took some time off. Um, and then I realized if you went to, I was in St. Louis at the time. So I realized if you went to the University of Missouri St. Louis and I was working downtown, you got a free light rail pass. So this is how I went to grad school. So I said, I want a free light rail pass. So it cost me a lot more than the light rail pass, but I got an MFA in creative writing.
Yes, you did. Yes, it did.
hmm
Okay. Great.
Um, and then literally the month I got it, the month I graduated, I started a music magazine and
Wow.
have written no fiction ever since. So wrote a lot of, essays, interviews, reviews, things like that. Yeah, it
Wow.
was fun. And
What inspired you
then
to start a music magazine?
I had been writing for one, and
Okay.
this is how I live my whole life. I've been writing for one, and I really
Yeah.
enjoyed it, and it went under. And so
Oh.
my husband at the time and I were like, "How hard can it be?" Well, it can, yeah, nearly bankrupt you. It's
Oh
very
my gosh.
difficult. Yeah.
Wow.
And I was busy all the time. And
Yeah.
then one day I was like, I have free time. What should I do with myself? And he was working at a college, so I could get a free degree.
Oh
All
wow.
right, I'm going to go back to college and do something fun. And they
Right.
didn't have anything fun. And I've always been into forensic psychology. I've always loved it.
Oh, cool.
So I wanted to do that. They didn't have anything. So I ended up
Yeah.
doing media communications and got a master's in that. And then I did my thesis on violent crime and the internet.
Wow.
And I had so much fun with it that I said, well, now I want a forensic psychology degree, but it would be silly to
Mm,
have three masters. So I might as well
right.
get a PhD. So
Oh
I
my
went
gosh.
back and did that. And the whole time, like I've had jobs here and there writing and editing. So I've always loved both of them.
Yeah.
And so I graduated with my PhD in February 2017.
Wow.
And people quickly told me, unless you're a licensed therapist, you're not going to work in this field. So I was
Oh
like,
wow.
okay, well, I like editing. And that opportunity just came up. And so I edited a dissertation and went, this is what I want to do. This,
Wow.
at least I can say I'm using my PhD, even though I'm not in my field.
Right.
But yeah, so I just realized that, I wouldn't say I enjoyed the dissertation process, but
Right.
you get comfortable with it. And I didn't have any trouble with the writing part. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
And then
that's amazing because a lot of people have a lot of trouble with the writing part. In fact, I
oh,
think that's, it's like they can figure out the research part, but it's the writing part
exactly,
that I think
exactly.
holds a lot of
Yeah.
people back.
Yeah. So like I said, I did the first one and I started doing it on the
Hmm.
side for about a year and
Hmm.
then went full time, um,
Hmm.
I guess 2.5 years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
amazing. Okay,
Yeah.
and so when you started, did you just start out with with the Wolf and the Crow?
No, I just did it under my own name until I was doing it about halftime in
Okay,
2019.
yeah,
Um, no, 2018 because I was full time 2019 February. So I was doing it about halftime, and so
yeah,
that's when I was like, okay, I should probably start a business name with it.
cool. And
So
how did you
that's
come up
when.
with the business name?
So my husband's spirit animal is a wolf, and mine is a crow.
Oh,
And so
cool.
it just seemed perfect. So yeah,
Yeah,
website
yeah,
was available and the name was available, and I was like, that's it. That's what
yeah,
it is. Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
So cool. So, So I want to start off by asking, for a lot of dissertation writers that never used an editor before, right?
Mhm,
And never
mhm.
written a dissertation before. So it's like haven't this maybe felt like they needed an editor until this point.
Yeah, yeah.
And I know for some schools they require an editor. For some
Mhm.
schools they suggest an editor, and other schools don't even talk about it at all, right? So
Right.
it runs the whole gamut.
Yeah.
And so for someone that's starting to think about well, I mean, I don't know. Actually, maybe I should back up. What often brings people to even start thinking about using an editor?
Sometimes it's because their chair tells them, "Hey, you're not getting
Okay.
anywhere, you need help."
Okay.
Um, Sometimes I think they might work with a coach or they might have, somebody in their program who has used an editor and will
Right.
say, I know you're getting really frustrated. Maybe it's time to think about this.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so it runs the span of a lot of different ways to get to an editor.
Okay.
But I think
Yeah.
that it's becoming more commonplace, and especially on
Yeah.
Facebook, there's a lot of doctoral groups, and they're starting to see, oh my gosh, other people are talking about editors. Maybe that's something I could do.
Right.
So it might just be curiosity on their part, but I think a lot of times either they realize their committee keeps coming back and saying, "This isn't very clear. This isn't written well. You have grammar errors," um, and if you need it, you need it. I wouldn't say everybody needs it, but
Right.
some people really can use the help.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and especially if you're feeling stuck, I would
Yeah,
imagine, right? It just like having somebody
exactly.
to help you through would be
Right,
fabulous.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So at what point, um, I mean, do you have suggestions of at what point people should be looking for an if they're going to be working with one? Is there like an ideal
yeah.
time to be looking towards working with you?
So the ideal time is not how far you are, it's the progress and the frustration you're making.
Okay.
What I tell my clients, and you know, good editing is not cheap.
Okay.
It
Yep.
shouldn't bankrupt you, but
Right.
my goal is always to save you time, tuition, and frustration.
Right.
So I think good editing should pay for itself
Right.
because you're not going to have to pay that extra quarter of tuition, or you're not going to have to, spin your wheels and go back and forth because that gets really, really frustrating.
Hmm.
So, I mean, I have people come in at the prospectus stage. I have people come in chapter by chapter. Um, Usually, I would say the majority is at the proposal stage and at the final stage, and not necessarily at
Hmm.
both, but some will come in
Hmm.
at the very, very end and say, okay, I've defended and everything's great, but I have to make changes before I can get it officially approved.
Right.
So it's a frustration thing, I think, more than anything else. It's just when you're struggling, that would probably be a good time to at least look into it.
Right. Right. Okay. So in looking into it, do you suggest how people should go about finding one? And what do you think is kind of do you have thoughts on, how that match works and how important the match is?
Kind of. So, like I said, there are a lot of Facebook groups. People are
Mm-hmm.
throwing it out there a lot. People will recommend editors they've used.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably a good place to start if you're
Mm-hmm.
seeing those recommendations.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I'll just, throw myself out there and say, hey, if you need help, let me know. But
Right.
beyond that, I think seeing those recommendations is really good. I would talk to
Mm-hmm.
people in your cohort and
Mm-hmm.
just see who they've used, if they've been happy. Um, I think those are probably, and in your chair too, because I have a lot of chairs and mentors who know their students have worked with me. And so if
Right.
you ask them, they can refer you to somebody as well.
Right. Great.
Probably the best way to get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say unless you've seen that name, and I see a lot of names out there, so there are a bunch of referrals, but that's a really good way to start. Is just make sure other people have worked with that person.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I've been happy with the services.
And so if I'm going to be looking for an editor and I've got, a few names of people, um, would you suggest that I call multiple or I mean, how do you suggest that I would go about, doing that?
You can. You
Mm.
can. I would say the majority of people don't.
Oh, okay.
They usually just go, "Hey, I see your name a lot. What can
Okay.
you do for me?" Or,
Okay, great.
I've talked to somebody else and they're not available. How fast can you turn it around? So I
Right.
know I've had some who have shopped around and gotten multiple quotes,
Yeah.
but I would say the majority of them don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that now that I've decided to work with you, what does the process look like?
So the process with me, I do a personalized estimate up front for everybody. Before I'm
Great.
going to give you a quote, before I'm going to tell you when I can get it to you, I'm going to take a look at what you've got because, it's not just the number of pages, which is a huge factor, but it's also the quality of the work, what you need. Some of them I may spend 15 minutes per page. So that's going to cost a little more than the ones that are 3 minutes a page. Um,
Right.
so that's the first step is just reaching out, getting an estimate. Obviously, there's absolutely no charge for that. And then we can discuss that. Most people are like, and I give them a breakdown of, these are the issues I'm seeing, not every single thing, but these are the main issues I'm seeing that you definitely need help with. So I
Great.
do a breakdown with that. I'll just look at references, tables, things like that, any formatting that needs to be done, and that all goes into the estimate. So that's probably the best way. And then if we agree on the terms, which usually isn't a big deal, usually people come into it knowing what to expect. Not to say that people don't get estimates and not work with me, but if they're going to work with me, it's usually, oh, okay, that's very clear. That's how we're going to work together. So I do my estimate. I do a deposit up front, 50%. We agree on turnaround time, and then I will get that to them, and that's when the rest of it is due.
Great. And so sorry, I noticed my video went off. I
Yeah, that's
it's my
okay.
my computer's being weird, but hopefully you
Yeah.
can still hear me. So I'll see
Yeah,
if I
yeah.
can get myself back.
Okay.
Um, and so can you offer or kind of give us a sense? Because one of the main questions that people sent in to me early on was about fees. Can
Mhm.
you give me a sense of like how much it might cost for me to work with you? I imagine there's a huge range.
There is a huge range.
Hmm.
So I do an hourly rate of 57. And
Okay.
usually what I do is okay, here's how many pages it is, here's the base. Here's
Right.
generally what that number of pages takes, and then I just factor in what all needs to be done. How
Okay.
comprehensive it's going to be, how much help it's going to be or need, and just go from there. And sometimes things like people will have 27 tables and they're all formatted wrong, so that's going to take a bit of time.
Right.
See what needs to be done with the references. If there's a lot of them, I usually just do a quick recite works check and just see how much work needs to be done there. Because I've had some that they're missing so many like more references than they have on their list. So it takes a while to find all those and put those together.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean,
So
that's,
that doesn't give you a clear picture. I would say bottom line, I think I started about 3 hours a chapter and then as a base, that's usually about the minimum it's going to be and then add on.
got
So
it.
usually
Okay.
probably 3 to 5 a chapter, depending
Hmm.
on how much work needs to be done and
Yeah.
how long
Yeah.
or short it is.
Okay. And if we're going to work together, you'll give me an estimate, so I'll get to
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, I'll know
yeah,
a lot of that up front.
exactly, and yeah, and rarely I'll overestimate, but if I do, that's all I charge.
Hmm.
And if I underestimate, then that's on me because
Okay.
I gave you a quote and I'm not gonna go beyond that quote.
Okay. Got it. So then you already have my dissertation,
Mhm.
and I agreed. Okay, you give me the quote, and I say, okay, let's go for it. What happens next?
So then it's on my plate,
Uh
and I
huh.
put it on my calendar. Um, Generally, I'd say for a full proposal dissertation, you're gonna be looking at 10 to 14 days. Um,
Okay.
Generally, I can push it quicker if you need it.
Right.
So it just depends on, what's on the calendar and how big they are.
Yes.
But I definitely do take brushes, just sometimes there has to be a charge, I
Right.
kind of base it on it. If I'm gonna have to give up some sleep to meet your deadline, then
Right,
you're gonna have to
right.
pay me a little rush charge for that. But,
Yeah,
if I got plenty of time right now, then that's no big deal.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and but the key is well, not the key, but it sure would be nice to not have to rush things, right? I mean, for you or for me.
It would, yeah,
Yeah. Okay,
yeah.
so you do it and then you give it back to me. Like, how much back and forth is there between
Oh,
us?
there's 1.
Okay.
Occasionally
Uh-huh.
there's 2. So, I line edit like crazy.
Uh-huh.
I do track changes, so everything's in there, but, I always tell people it's like the proverbial when you get your paper back from your teacher and there's red ink
Right.
everywhere, you're gonna get that.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
if there's something I can't understand, I put a comment in there. If
Mhm.
I can't make sense of this to make it sound better,
Right.
but I will hack up and rewrite and format and fix everything. So usually there's just 1. I deliver it, and then when I deliver it, I have a line edit, and then I have a clean
Mhm.
document. So they're
Got
both
it.
ready to go, but usually I end up telling people, "Hey, there's some comments you probably wanna look at first." So
Right.
if there's a lot of stuff for them to add, sometimes people will come back and say, "Hey, can you check this new material?" Or, "I added 5 references, can you format them?" But
Got it.
usually it's a one-time thing.
And what if I hire you for my proposal, but then I need you again for my final draft?
Yeah, I love that. I love
So
working
is that like 2
I lo
separate things?
It is, yes, yes, it's
Okay.
2 separate jobs, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Got it.
unless it's what I tell people is, especially toward the end, like, I should have your formatting down.
Mhm.
As long as I've got your university guidelines and whatever style guide you're using, that should be done. If
Mhm.
I miss anything, which I generally, don't miss a whole lot, but, if I mess up something that I should have gotten, then there's absolutely no charge to fix it. But,
Right.
if you
Right.
do come back and say, "Hey, I wrote 20 new pages," that's new work, so that will be charged.
Yes. Yeah. Got it. Okay. Um, sorry, just looking at my
No
questions
worries.
here. So it sounds like okay. I send it to you. You send it back to me, and then there's not much kind of back and forth after that.
Usually
It's
not. Mm-mm.
okay.
Usually not.
Okay. Um, how would I don't know if you can answer this, but do you have a sense that you're different than other editors in some way? Do you, and if true, if so, how do you have a sense of what the difference is?
I like to think I am. I like to think my quality is, pretty much as good as it gets.
Right,
Um, I have a fair number of clients who get their work back from me, submit it, and don't have any change requests, which always
right,
makes me feel
beautiful.
good because, yeah.
Yes.
And then I'm just like a total nerd about formatting, so
Hmm.
that too, especially getting word kinks out, getting everything to line up, getting
Right,
all the headings and the references right. So I think that's it because I'm very particular about my editing and
right.
about my work and the work I deliver.
Yeah, beautiful. Um, now, if well, what are some of the most common, I don't know, errors or mistakes that you see?
So the biggest by far are passive voice and anthropomorphism, which are
Uh-huh.
just hard. I mean, I taught college too, and it's just hard for people to grasp those concepts.
Yeah,
And it's a challenge to not to fix them, but just yeah, to realize what they are and go, oh my gosh, how do I fix this? So those are definitely the biggest ones. I would say academic tone and language gets kind of big, just because you probably didn't get to this point being an academic writer.
right.
Some people come in as creative writers, and yeah,
Yeah,
that needs a bit of work.
yeah,
Um, the sentence construction, the focus, just having like phrases that don't modify anything. So making sure the focus is on the topic and not on, let's say, the writer who wrote about it, because they're not as important as the topic. Wordiness is the big one. Word
mm,
choice sometimes is a big one.
mhm,
Um, Usually there's not a ton of grammar errors, but sometimes there's fragments or run-ons and things like that. But those are probably the biggest ones. Verb tense too, I would say. Um, just in terms of where you are on the proposal and what has to be
Yeah.
present or future and past tense, and with research. So that's kind of a long list, but those are probably the biggest ones I see.
So given all those, do you have any, I don't know, tips or tricks or strategies for people to, um, I don't know, to clean it up as best as possible before they send it to you, or, I don't know, things that they can be doing to be making their writing, as best as possible?
Yeah. Well, like I said, like with anthropomorphism and passive voice, that might be something if you're struggling with, let somebody else
Mm,
do it because they're going to do it
okay.
so much quicker than you will.
Okay, got it.
I do recommend Grammarly if you haven't used it.
Great.
Get the
Okay.
professional version, but it's not
Uh-huh.
going to catch everything. And I
Okay.
always do like a first read and a really, really close edit. And then I do a
Okay.
second read and I turn Grammarly on at that point just to
Uh-huh.
see if there's anything it's going to catch. And
Okay.
sometimes it'll catch, this is kind of a wordy sentence or, you know,
Right.
this word is weird. You've used it too many times. So usually I catch word repetition too. So I think Grammarly helps. It'll get you in a little bit better position.
Mm-hmm.
But I think
Mm-hmm.
there just comes a point if you need an editor, it's just so much faster for an editor who knows what they're doing to fix it for you
Right.
instead of
Right.
you.
Right.
I have some people who I've just spent 3 hours trying to format Word and get everything right. And I'll do
Mm.
it for you in 10 minutes, no charge.
Right.
Just send it over.
Right.
So
Right. Right.
yeah,
I got
if
that.
you're just struggling, just maybe that's the time to call out for help.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You said that in the beginning, right? If you're kind of in this frustration place, like that is the time, right? And
Oh,
don't
because
waste your time and
it's
energy.
frustrating enough without having
Mhm.
to worry about
Right.
Word. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
A
Right. Yeah.
page
Yeah. Worry
number.
about the,
Yeah.
yeah. Worry about the big stuff. Let somebody else
Exactly.
help with the little stuff, maybe.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Grammarly. So, just a quick question around Grammarly.
Mhm.
Is it okay to generally just trust them that they know what they're doing? Yeah, okay. Because I mean, I use them sometimes. They've got commas in
Mhm.
places, and I'm like, is that me or is that them? Like, am I confused or are they confused?
Usually, what it suggests is pretty good,
Uh-huh.
but it
Okay.
doesn't catch everything.
Okay. Right.
By far, it doesn't catch everything.
Sure. 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 But the
Mhm.
suggestions that they offer, are those generally right?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So
Yeah.
if it puts a comma in there, then it's probably my my
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
bad.
The
They probably know what
punctuation's
they're
pretty
doing.
good at. Mhm.
Um, how do you feel about needing to know somebody's field of study? Like, do you work with people in all fields of study, or do you think that, yeah,
All
okay,
fields. Yeah. Yeah. I've done like some super scientific papers and I did do a couple that were more like literature analyses,
uh-huh,
which is kind of
okay,
fun because I didn't do that. But yeah, I mean, I've learned so much about the topics, but I think my
right,
job, it should make sense to me because what you're writing should make sense to a reader. Um,
right,
and
yes,
I'm just going to make it flow so well that, it's just going to be
yeah,
a better project. So, no, I wouldn't say being an expert in the topic is a big deal, but,
okay,
at this point, I've done so many, I've probably done over 400
yeah,
dissertations. So I've
wow,
read every topic, and some of them I've gotten super familiar with just because a lot of people are in those programs.
yes, yeah, wow. 400 dissertations. That's a lot of
No,
dissertations to have worked on.
isn't it? I was just
Yeah,
looking the other day.
yeah,
I'm like, how many have I done? I think it's like 300. I went, oh my gosh, we're like 402. Okay.
that's amazing. I love that you track it too. That's so cool.
Oh yeah, it's exciting.
I was thinking, as a dissertation chair, like I should have tracked all the ones that I chaired or I was on the committee of, and I didn't do. And every
Yeah.
once in a while I go, I should go back and count those, but I haven't done it.
Yeah.
So are there any other, tips or tricks or things, that you think could be helpful?
I think one of the biggest is don't wait till the last minute.
Yeah,
Some people say I need this edited in 2 days, and I probably can't help you if you need your full dissertation in 2 days. It's just not going
right,
to happen.
right.
So waiting to the last minute is definitely the worst part. I think that's probably the big thing
Yeah.
is just
Okay.
realize that it's not something, that somebody can turn that quickly. And if they can, it might not be as good as you want it to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Right. If they can do it that quickly, then right.
Hmm.
Might want to question.
Exactly.
Um, Is there anything else that I haven't asked? Any other
Um,
about the editing process, about how to find one, about how to work with one?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Some people, I have very few people ask for referrals, mostly because they're
Mhm.
referred to me
Right.
for references, but I've definitely given those out too. So, if it's somebody maybe you haven't seen a whole lot, or somebody says, "Hey, my friend does it, she did mine," um,
Right.
it might help. But if you know somebody personally and they're happy, that's probably going to help.
Yeah.
I think just,
Yeah.
yeah, just realizing it's going to take a little time.
Yeah. Well, and it sounds like, I guess I had an image that the relationship, would be an important thing. Just, I mean, as a therapist, right? I think
Hmm.
about that all the time, right? And I also think about just the emotional aspects of the. I mean, that's the parts that I work on as the district as a dissertation coach, is the emotional aspects, right? And kind of,
Yes,
all of the
yes.
blockades and such. And so that's. But it sounds like I think that what I heard you say was that doesn't seem to be that important in this process.
I
Um,
like it. Like, I really love working with people from start to finish,
yeah,
but it's when you
yeah,
need to bring someone in,
yeah, okay. Mhm,
it's just,
mhm,
often I'll work with people who come back and say, okay, I've run through my committee. I needed to write more about this topic.
mhm.
Can you look at the new material? Or with Walden and a couple other schools, it has to go through like a form and style review at the end, or form and format. Um,
Okay,
so sometimes people come back with those. And a lot of that too is, okay, formatting, I should have caught that. Or, maybe I didn't have the guidelines, but we know what it is now.
right. Well, and
So
that's a
most,
thing.
yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, just that different universities have different expectations, right? And they got their own, um, I don't know, is it their own
Style, thing.
formatting or their own
Yep.
style, right?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Everybody's got
so
something different.
and so the scholar needs to give that to you as well. Is that true?
Yeah. Yeah. If I
Right,
don't
so you
have it,
got
I
that.
have a whole folder of university guidelines,
Uh,
but
oh,
every
good. Okay.
now and then I'll work with somebody I haven't worked with their school yet. So then I just need to get a copy of their guidelines.
Right, right. Okay. Um, Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah,
It's
you're
so
welcome.
helpful to just learn, the basics, and just
Yeah.
how to even begin this process and how to think about it. Oh God. Okay, one last question.
Yeah.
So some scholars have said it feels like cheating, right? Or isn't that cheating? So yeah, well, how would you respond to that?
No. So my thing, and what, it's not cheating. If you
Yeah,
get it down, it's your ideas.
yeah,
It's your knowledge, and I'm just making it sound better.
yeah.
Every now and then, somebody will say, "Hey, I have my results. Can you write my chapter?" No, no.
Uh
You write
huh.
it. I'll make it sound good.
Uh
But
huh. Okay.
that, I think, would be cheating. Um,
Right.
but no, as long as it's your work, I'm not going to sit there and do the research and go, "Oh, you didn't really touch on this. Let me add to your research."
Right.
So it's definitely not cheating. If you
Yeah.
think about anybody who publishes a book, there's an editor, and things are going to get
Right.
cut and things are going to get pushed around.
Yeah.
Just, you do the work, you have the information, you have the results, you put it down. It's not
Yeah.
cheating.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Thank you. I think I was surprised when I heard that come up too, and I was like, "What?
Yeah.
Oh, okay." Well, but I can kind of see that perspective, right?
Yeah.
If you're concerned that or you've heard something, right, from
Hmm.
someone that it's like, and you did mention earlier, which I've also believe, is that it's becoming so much more common now. There
Oh,
are so
yeah.
many more people reaching out to editors and looking
Yeah.
for editors. And so it's, oh my God, I mean, I got my degree, 21 years ago, I think.
Wow.
Right. And
Hmm.
so, oh my God, 23 years ago, it was 98. Wow.
Gosh.
And so, we certainly didn't, I don't know, certainly, but I never heard of people using editors then. Right. So,
Yeah.
what a beautiful thing that you exist, right? And that you can help people
Hmm.
out when they're they're struggling, because the degree is not about all the little nitty gritty stuff that you're really good at, right? The degree is about the much different, bigger picture.
Exactly. Yeah. The degree is about your ideas and your
Yeah,
research.
yeah,
And I definitely think it's better because most of them are going to get published somewhere, whether it's your university
yeah,
repository or ProQuest, and you want it to be your best effort because your name's on
yes,
that.
yes,
So I I personally would want it to be clear. Every now and then I'll pull down a dissertation for something and look at it and go, "Oh my gosh, how could they not catch this?" And your
right,
name's on it and your school's name's on it. So Yeah.
Right. Well, and your committee members' names are on. I mean,
I
it's not just you,
know.
right? I mean, there's a whole bunch of people who are invested, and yet somehow
Yeah.
they let things,
Mhm.
go by, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so if people want to get a hold of you, how would they go about doing that?
So, my website has contact information. It's just thewolfandthecrow.com. So make
Okay.
sure that these are in there.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, there's all sorts of information on there and about my services and some testimonials and, my background and things like that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
Dr. Laura Schlater, for
Yes,
spending some time
ma'am.
with us today, and talking and teaching us about your services and about how
Sounds
to work with
good.
an editor. And
Thanks for
I'm
the
sorry about my my video dying.
well,
My computer is acting up, but
yeah, that
um,
happens.
yeah, weird. So, thank you so
Yeah.
much. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks, you too.
Okay. Bye bye.
Bye.